Frontline Financial Services offers affordable tax preparation with the maximum refunds you deserve. We file federal plus state tax returns with free phone estimates, fast refunds, and an advance loan as high as $6,000 on the same day. Your documents can be received through text, email, or WhatsApp, and you can take advantage of our mobile and virtual filing services. Call or visit our website today and let us earn your business. Frontline Financial Services. We take the lead. When leaving your comfort zone for better opportunities, you're sure to encounter unforgettable souvenirs. Whether it was the difficulties you faced or the joys you embraced, your story can guide someone else ready for the race.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Journey. I'm Baji Saho, and I'll be your host. So before we begin, I would like to give you guys a bit of information about why I got inspired to start a show like The Journey. So as a child, I always was excited to hear the words of the traveler, When they brought me gifts, I would savor the sense of products that came from a land different from mine. I wanted to know more about these countries, and as my viewer, I'm sure you did too, or still do. The stories and gifts always had me wondering if there's a land far away from mine, more developed, more peaceful, a place better with better opportunities that will facilitate my success. And these questions, most of the time, are answered by migration, migrating to these countries and trying to get these answers for ourselves. Now, for this show, to get a better perspective on what happens on this expedition, my show will invite the travelers, the risk takers, the immigrants, whatever fits, and we'll listen to their stories. So, my guest for today is Fatou Secka, a graduate from Dalhousie University at Canada. She was born and raised in the Gambia and studied engineering. Without further ado, Fatou Secka, welcome to The Journey.
Thank you, Saha. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to share my story.
Thank you. So, why don't we start off with where you grew up and what was life like in the Gambia as a child?
So I was born and raised in the Gambia. I lived in Caniving South as a young child, and then we moved to Old Joshua, so very close to Estate. I grew up with my two sisters, my parents, so I had my siblings around. Growing up was not too fun, I'd say. So it was mostly just going to school, barely met up with my friends because my mom just wanted everyone to be home. So it was a way of bringing us up. So not a lot of exploring, just school, jangadara, just the basic things that like a Gambian child would usually go through. So it was very maybe like restrictive, I would say.
I think that happens to a lot of us as Gambian kids. They call us Ospikins,
Yeah. I was a typical Ospikin.
Yeah,
Typical
exactly.
Ospikin, yeah.
Ones that stay home. Okay. Well, I think that's very interesting. Well, tell me about the schools you went to.
So I went to Ndaus Comprehensive. So for my nursery, it was Ndaus Comprehensive. So I went to Ndaus from nursery to grade 6, and then went to West African International School Wise from Form 1 to Form 5, and then I did my A levels at Marina. So I was all over the place. So I did my Form 6 and my Form 7 at Marina.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as a child in Gambia, what would you say, what sparked your interest? What were your hobbies, if you had any, since it was a bit restrictive, as an Uzbekin?
I enjoyed reading a lot. So mostly I'll spend my time reading books. I remember the books that we would get, especially the ones that we read when I was in Laos, so like primary school. I remember those stories a lot, and I enjoyed reading those books. And as I grew up, other hobbies that I figured out I enjoyed doing was like playing volleyball, because like during school we had those activities. We had a volleyball team and I was part of the team. And then after that I enjoyed playing tennis. It was something else that I did and I was good at. So I would say those were really my hobbies: reading and playing those sports,
Mhm.
and spending time with my sister and a few friends. Those would be my hobbies, where my hobbies growing up.
Mhm. So, did you ever wonder about traveling as a child at that moment? Did you ever want to go for a holiday? What countries did you want to go to? You know.
So we did travel. My mom loves traveling, so I think that's my mom's hobby. She enjoys traveling, so I did travel a few times with her. I was curious before I actually went to my first travel. I was curious about it because you'd see people come and go, or you have like aunts or uncles that are abroad. So you just wonder, okay, what are they doing there? How is life there? But my first experience, I was really young. I think I was in grade 4. So
Mhm.
I was pretty young. That was my first experience traveling. And after that, I did travel a few other times. So I did have the experience, but I wondered, as everyone would be.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, so let's fast forward to Fatou Secka, the teenager in Gambia, and maybe about to graduate high school. Now, usually when somebody's about to graduate, they're starting to look at universities, where they want to go to. What was your mentality, let's say, at 12th grade?
At 12th grade, I was really young. So my mentality at the time, especially when it came to going for uni, I did want to travel abroad to get that experience of getting an education at like a good university. But honestly, at the time, all I wanted was just to travel. I just wanted to just leave and kind of like escape, and just start my experience, my journey as an individual, as myself, for like that self discovery. Maybe at the time I didn't think of it as self discovery. It was more like to just escape and just
Mhm.
be on my own. But I also really wanted that experience of going to a new university because I knew of the opportunities that that would bring for someone. So I wanted to travel. I wanted, I was hell bent at looking at universities abroad. I remember my dad brought up the option of going to Ghana. Now, when I sit and think about it, I was like, it would have been a great experience as well. And I wish I did take it up. But to me at the time, it was not an option. I didn't want to hear that option at all. And I just wanted to, because my sister was in Canada, I wanted to just go to Canada. That was like,
Yeah.
no, that's the only thing that I saw. And any other option to me was like, and no, I'm not hearing it and I'm not taking it. But then you grow up and then you realize, maybe we should have been a lot more considerate because we don't know what our parents can afford. And if it is just about the growing aspect, the learning aspect, you can learn anywhere. Like I could have taken up the opportunity of going to Ghana and get like a great education, a great experience with a lot of opportunities.
Mhm.
But those things come with growth, and maybe I should have listened to the people that actually went through the journey and came back to like tell you, take the opportunity, go to Ghana. It's a great experience. You will learn. It's the education that you want. You will get it.
Mhm.
But maybe I was just a little bit stubborn.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
when you talk to your father about your interest in going to Canada, what was his reaction?
I don't remember, to be quite frank. To be honest, I don't remember what his reaction was, but he brought up the option of I going to Ghana. But like I mentioned, my sister was in Canada. She just graduated and she got a job and she offered to pay for my education. So she's the one who paid for my undergraduate degree in Canada, most of it, almost all of it, I'd say. So she supported me through that journey. The only thing that I remember of my dad's reaction was just saying, "Why don't you go to Ghana?"
Hmm. Well,
Yeah,
let me
but
restructure that question so we
okay.
can get a better perspective. So once you decided on going to Canada, What was the process like?
Oh, um, so when I decided, I kind of like did everything on my own. So although, like I said, my sister was there, I decided I was the one who had to look for the schools that I wanted to go to. I weighed my options. I looked at what the university was offering that I wanted to take.
Mhm.
I looked through the application process. I did everything technically when it came to that end. But
Mhm.
I remember what I was thinking at that age. So,
Mhm.
like there was a point I thought about it. I was like, why do I have to go through the application process and fill the entire form myself when my sister is there? Why
Mhm.
can't she just do it for me? So, like back then we had that mentality of someone is there, they can do it. It's an easy process.
Mhm.
But I did, and I'm glad I did. It's easy to do. You decide on a school, you go look at their website, their application process. I gathered my documents and then placed in my application. I just didn't
Mhm.
pay for anything because I couldn't afford it.
Mhm.
But that was the process.
Mhm. Okay. What were the financial difficulties you would say you had in Gambia before leaving for Canada, if you had any?
Of course. So financially, I didn't have anything. Like everything that I actually I was working before I left. So
Okay.
before I graduated, like after I graduated from my A levels, I was working at MRC, which was
Mhm.
a great experience and one of my best experiences, I would say. So I
Mhm.
worked for them, and every month you get like a stipend. I
Mhm.
don't remember how much I got, but I think it was around $1,000 at the time every month. So I was working as an intern at their laboratory, so their
Mhm.
research lab, and that was the only monthly income that I got
Mhm.
financially. So when it came to going to school, honestly, that wouldn't do anything for me. So
Mhm.
I did not contribute financially in any way with the process of me traveling. The only
Mhm.
thing that I did was, like I said, go through the application, fill the application, but financially, it was my sister who paid for everything.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wasn't strong financially. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about financial struggles because to me, I just can't afford it. I cannot afford it. But I
Mhm.
was glad that I had the support that I needed at the time.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So let's move forward to the day you were going to Canada. Do you still remember your thoughts, your feelings?
I did. I do remember. It was a mix of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
One was you're leaving your family behind. So I was leaving my mom, my family, my sister behind, and you're traveling, like you're going traveling miles away from home, and things that I thought about were, what if something happens to them whilst I'm away? I was really sad about that, just leaving my family behind. But I was also excited about just being away and being on my own and exploring and just going through that next phase of my life. I had that excitement. So it was a mixture of being sad and being excited at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't fully remember all of my thoughts at all. But I know that one thing was
Of
what I
course,
thought about. Yeah.
of course. Um, what did you imagine Canada to be like for you, going to college at the time?
That's something I have to think about. I don't
Of course. Okay, well, let's say, now that you're in Canada and you've experienced the life
Mhm.
living there as a Gambian, as an immigrant, was it what you imagined uh, leaving Gambia?
It was not entirely what I imagined it to be. Um, leaving for me, I had no goals at all. The goal to me, maybe I should rephrase that. The goal at the time was just to travel to get an education. Why do we get that education? Is because we want a great career or a great future, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I thought about it. That's what I imagined it to be. But now that I've lived in Canada, I've graduated, I've gone through the process, it is more than just that. So you're moving to an entirely different country, and it's different from just traveling for holidays where you're with your family. So you travel, you're with your family or you're with friends. Here, you're just so you are immigrating, you're going into a totally different country with a different culture, different people. You don't know anyone there, first of all. So that alone is scary. So I didn't imagine it to kind of like push you and form you, and you go through a lot of experiences that make you grow as an individual. So I think the mindset that people have with going abroad is that it's an easy life.
Of
Um,
course.
you just get there and everything works out for you. And it's like everything is laid down on a plate. You just go and you have your options and you just choose from those options. That is not the case. So you're like I moved where I barely knew anyone at all. I'm going to school. I'm trying to succeed in school, but I'm also facing other challenges, like going through the culture shock. Even though you don't realize that you're struggling with integrating into a culture, um, you realize that you don't have your family with you. You can't get financial support as you would when you're back home. So you realize that okay, you have to start working and earning your own money. So you're juggling so many things at the same time. If you're someone who really wants to succeed in school, you're putting in the hours and studying, and then you're also working and trying to support yourself, and you're also struggling with trying to integrate into the culture. You're building an entirely new network of people, all all afresh, all at once. So there's so many things that you juggle with when you travel. It is really not an easy experience.
Of course.
Yeah.
And when you were leaving, did you have an idea of how long you were going to be there?
Not really. So then I wasn't one who would plan. It was like whatever God decides is going to happen, and it's still the same way. It's only what Allah decides, and that is what happens. But to me, I think at the time leaving for me, it was just I just wanted to get away. I didn't think of what would happen or what plans that I should have or what goals that I should have. Um, yeah, I think I forgot your question.
That's okay. So once you reached Canada, what were the first things you did, if you still remember?
When I got here, I slept. That was a no, scratch that. When I got here, the first thing that I did was get food. So my cousin picked me up from the airport. Aisha, she picked me up. We got food. Um, we stayed. So I was supposed to stay on campus, but it was late and I didn't want to check in on campus yet. So stayed with my cousin's friend and my cousin. So she actually was not in Halifax at the time, my cousin. So she traveled to Halifax to actually pick me up and try to get me settled. So we stayed overnight, and then the next day we went and I tried to settle in on campus. So, they showed me my room and I was supposed to share it with someone. It was like just one room, one bed, a study desk. And I came in so late, so I didn't actually get an apartment on the floor that I wanted to get, the apartment that I wanted. So I was kind of like on a floor with different guys. So
Oh.
I was the only, my room with my roommate, we were the only females on the floor. And it's 3, 4 bedrooms with 2 people in each bedroom. And then we have to share a bathroom. And that was a struggle for me. So, like how as a woman, especially from where we're from, the culture, having to share with someone, you don't know, and it's a guy. So what I would do is, oh, that was a struggle. I would usually wake up before Fajr, and when everyone is asleep, I'll take a shower because by then they've already cleaned everything. It's late at night, everything is clean. I'll take a shower. I'll make sure I'm ready because at that time no one is up. I get ready for things that I have to do. My prayers. I've showered. I pray. I stay in my room, and I don't use that bathroom that entire day.
What?
until Fajr again. So because it's on campus, I'm traveling between classes.
Yeah.
There are washrooms in
Other
the
places.
campus within itself that is clean. So you know how sometimes boys, I'm
Yeah.
not generalizing, but some boys can be really messy, and
Yeah.
sharing a bathroom with them was not ideal at all. So that's how I kind of like navigate my way. But
Mm-hmm.
back to the original question, the first things that I did so was like just trying to get myself integrated. I got onto campus, tried to register for my classes because I
Mm-hmm.
came in a bit late. I didn't go through orientation at all. Tried to get a bank account, a phone number, so a SIM card, get a line, did a little bit of shopping, get like
Mm-hmm.
winter clothes because I came right in winter.
Mm-hmm.
So because I came when the semesters already started, it was more about just trying to find my classes, trying to get my books, and just try to integrate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, when it came to sharing a room with a stranger, what was it like? That must have been your first time sharing a room with somebody you don't know.
That was the first time, but to be honest, God just made it so easy for me because so my roommate was Asian. I actually didn't meet her when I came. So apparently she had a boyfriend in Canada who lives somewhere else. So she was barely in our apartment in the room.
Okay.
So technically I had the room for myself. She would only come to the apartment like that room when she knows that her parents are visiting. So she'd come and it's like she lived in the room. It was interesting to see. And it
I
seemed
bet.
like that, she stayed in that apartment and they would come, they'll get her some like things that she has to drink, I think for health reasons. But
Mm-hmm.
that was the only time that she would come to the apartment, to the room. So I was lucky in that sense that I had the apartment technically to myself.
Mm-hmm. So, how long did you have to live on campus?
I lived on campus for an entire year
Mm-hmm.
and even going into the second year. But then I moved into a better like an apartment style
Mm-hmm.
building on campus where we had our own kitchen, our own bathroom, and that I shared it with two other Canadian females.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say like that was the first time I actually had to experience living with people
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know that were strangers. It's
Mm-hmm.
always hard to live with people generally
Mm-hmm.
because things are different. The culture is different. What I'm used to is not what they're used to.
Mm-hmm.
So some things that I struggled with was the lack of cleaning. So they would use the kitchen or use the bathroom and they would clean it. And
Mm-hmm.
it was hard for me because I couldn't use it and I'll have to clean after them. So I was very quiet at the time and wasn't vocal at all. So I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't go to them and be like, you have to clean after yourself after you use the
Mm-hmm.
kitchen. It's like, I'll just be quiet. Not because I was scared of them or anything, but naturally just that's just how I am.
Yeah.
I need the kitchen, I'll just go and clean it and use it. So that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of a struggle. But other than that, they were very lovely people to live with.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to learn from people. It kind of
Mm-hmm.
like just opens up your mind. You're more exposed. So great experiences.
So, was it difficult to live with strangers being a Muslim woman? Do you think uh, maybe it was harder to pray on time, especially with the school schedule and all of that?
Alhamdulillah, it wasn't hard at all for me. So like I said, when I lived on that apartment where I shared a room with someone, she wasn't there at all.
Yes.
When I lived in the other apartment with other strangers, I had a room to myself. So every person had their individual room. So I could pray when I was in my room. And also my apartment was within campus.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, and there was like also like a prayer place on campus
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
So certain times when I had a break, I could just go and pray and come back to class or just wait for my class. So it was easy. I, I was glad that I was able to pray. And even not that, like the culture in Halifax or Canada is that people are really accepting and welcoming. So
Mm-hmm.
even when I worked, like I worked as a retail associate in one of the companies, like it's a retail store. And during Ramadan, they were okay with I taking my breaks what, even outside of Ramadan, I usually scheduled my breaks when I had to pray. And if it is like a 15-minute break, I'll break it into two breaks because I have to pray, let's say, Asr or Maghrib. And they were okay with it. And they were very accommodating with during Ramadan as well for me to take my breaks and pray or to take my breaks for iftar. So I didn't struggle at all with that aspect.
That's really nice. We should all move to
Very
Canada.
nice. Yes, they are very nice people. I really didn't struggle. And there was a time I worked at another retail store, so Fossil, and they didn't have like a big break room at all. It's like a room where we would actually go to kind of like resize watches. So it was pretty packed. But if it was time for prayers, like as long as you tell them when it was time for me to pray, I can just take like a 10-minute quick break, go in a corner, pray, and they will continue with the work that they have to do. So it was not a struggle at all.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I am so happy that you got to have that experience.
I
So,
did.
what was that the university you were in? Did you start at Dalhousie or was it a 2 year college before?
No, so I started at St. Mary's University, and that was like so I would have graduated from SMU, like St. Mary's, if I continued with the actual program that I wanted to do. So moving to Canada, I wanted to study medicine. So that was the initial plan. So I was registered in the Bachelors of Science program. But a year after, with like a year into my program, I decided to switch. So I switched to engineering, and St. Mary's only has like a 2 year diploma with engineering. But then once you're done, you have to move to Dal or another university to continue with the other 3 years. So it's like a total of 5 years. It's a 5 year program with co-op. So co-op is like a cooperative program. Sorry, so it's a co-op program where you get to work whilst you're in school just to gain that experience. So I moved to Dal after 2 years at SMU.
Okay. And what was the reason? Why did you change from medicine?
Okay, so medicine was still is. It's a field that I've always been passionate about because to me there was no noble. There was not a I couldn't think of another noble career that I could do because this, like being a doctor, would allow me to help people. Like I'm actually helping them, like their time of need. So that's always what I wanted to do. But 1 year into my program, I started thinking, and the things that I thought about was one, it's really expensive to do medicine, especially as an international student in a foreign country. It's very expensive, and it takes a long time. And I couldn't imagine any way that I could get a scholarship to go into med school. And the only option for students, it was to get a loan, especially for Canadian students. They will take a loan,
Yeah.
go through med school, and then once they start working, they can pay off that loan. And to me, the idea of taking a loan, firstly, I didn't think it was possible. Secondly, it's not something that I would have wanted to subject myself to.
Yeah.
And the other reason why I decided to switch was I still am, but now I'm better. I used to be a very emotional individual. So when I thought about I as a doctor, firstly, I'm like, what if I have a patient? That was me then. I was young. I was thinking,
Yeah.
what if I have a patient and I'm so invested and attached to this patient,
Yeah.
and then they pass away and they die? What if I get to a point where I start questioning God or it starts to play with my faith? What if I lose that emotional aspect of me? Or what if I just am in a room and I start crying every single time I see a patient? So then I loved Grey's Anatomy, one of my favorite shows. And every single time I watched an episode, I would cry because of the patients.
Oh my God.
So those were reasons. So like you grow, you change, your mindset changes, but then that's how I thought about things. And I just decided, when I thought about all of those factors, I was like, I'll change. But I still wanted a career that would allow me to positively impact the lives of people, even if it wouldn't be something that I have to do directly, like work with them. It could be just like doing work that I know, even if they don't know, that it is benefiting them. And that was why I decided to do environmental engineering.
Okay, that's. I was actually just about to get to that. What
Yeah.
inspired you to get into environmental engineering, especially environmental? Because there are there's civil and there's electrical.
Yeah, so that part, I just wanted a career that I know would positively impact people, and we know how important our environment is. So the environmental engineering field is a really broad field. You just don't focus on, for example, the cleanliness of the environment. There's more to it. It's like ensuring that people have access to clean drinking water. It's like ensuring that whatever project, or for example, let's say a company, it's decides to build like just build a building or build something, an office, or a plant, like a processing plant, for example, in a community. It would be, for example, an environmental engineer's job to assess whether it is okay to build such a facility within that community. How is that facility going to affect the environment? How is it going to affect people? How is it going to affect their health? How is it going to ensure that they're living sustainably? Right? Is it going to affect their income? Is it going to be is it going to hinder their ability to actually live in their community? Would they have to send them away from where they live? So it's like just protecting people all around, from their
Of course.
environment, from the water that they drink, from the fish that they eat, because what are we dumping into our rivers, right? So I wanted that. I wanted that fulfillment of like just knowing that I'm impacting lives of people. So that
Now,
was the reason why I went into the environmental engineering discipline.
okay. And when you were taking it, where did you have in mind to have a job? Was it in Canada or in your homeland or another country? Um,
I've always wanted to go back home and work. So even when I was doing my undergraduate degree, so not even my master's, when I was doing my undergrad, I worked at a renewable energy company, and there was a really interesting project that I was working on, and I knew that it would be something that would be viable for the Gambia. I knew there was a possibility, and it would really impact and make such a huge difference. And I tried to pursue it. I tried to talk to people. I tried to find ways that we can do this thing in the Gambia, and it was practically impossible to even get someone that you can talk to. So I've always wanted to work for my country and find ways that we can help our country develop, because honestly there's no place like home,
of course.
honestly. And I think that we as people are the ones that can build and develop that country. But I also did want to stay in Canada and gain the experience. So not just go to school, you get the knowledge, you get like the theoretical knowledge of things, but you also need practical knowledge, practical experience, so that, at least I can get that experience and come back home and implement and work with the experience that I have. So not just with the knowledge, but just knowing the procedures and everything that is involved to, just ensure that I do the work as it should be done. So I still want to work for my country at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get there, inshallah.
inshallah. Yeah.
So, I know that being an international student at somebody else's country, you get different rules and principles compared to the people that are from that country. Um, what is it like being an international student in Canada? What were the restrictions and the favors students got?
From my experience, so I'll just with my own experience, especially when it comes to the learning aspects of things. There is, just from my experience, I'm not saying that this doesn't happen, but from my experience, there was not discrimination when it when it comes to the education that is being given to you. So, like, there are a lot of opportunities that they present to students, and they ensure that they're teaching you, because that is why you're there. But when it comes to like further opportunities, for example, getting a scholarship or getting your school fund, like, getting funding for your school, that is where like the challenges come into place. And it's because, for example, like the government would have funding, but they would only fund for the education of people that are Canadian or education of people that are permanent residencies. So they don't only fund their education for only in Canada, they even pay for them to go abroad and
Okay.
get that education. And it makes sense that they do that because they're kind of like investing in their own people. They know that when we educate this person, this is he or she is going to be the next generation of doctors, engineers, lawyers, what you name it. So they know that when they invest in their people, they will come back and work for the country and develop the country. Whereas if they provide funding for, let's say, I, who is an international student, there's no guarantee that I'm going to stay in their country and work
Yes.
unless they have like a rule or a law that would have me restrict me and have me stay and work for them. But they don't. There are opportunities for international students for sure, they do have them, but you would struggle a little bit more compared to someone who's a Canadian or who is a permanent residency. But other than that, when it comes to like my experience in school, the opportunities were there in terms of learning or like what your professors would teach you. It's just up to you as an individual as to how you want to take up the knowledge that they're giving you, how much effort you want to put in. Are you asking the right questions? Are you making use of the office hours that they have? But if you go to them for help, they don't discriminate. That is my
Okay.
experience. Someone else may have experienced something different.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So, would you say you finished your bachelor's degree in a timely manner? And
I
how
did.
long? How long did it take you to finish your bachelor's degree?
So it took 5 years, and 5 years including the co-op program, and
Yes.
that's how it is set up. So with the engineering discipline, that's how it's set up. Although I spent some time doing the Bachelor's of Science program, it really didn't affect like the length of the duration of time that it took me to finish my engineering degree, and it's because I took up some summer courses to make up for the time. But the way that the program is set up for engineers is that for the engineering program, you don't you firstly you have to take 6 courses per semester if you want to make it on time, and that's like that's a lot. It's a lot. So it's like courses with labs or just too much. But they set it up in a way that if you go through with it, you will graduate on time. So you take the 6 courses, and those courses they are the only courses that would be offered for the fall term. If you don't take them, you have to wait for the following fall term to make up for them. So if you're struggling with the 6 courses and you take up 4 courses, for example, because that is what you can handle, it will really delay you. Alhamdulillah, I was able to go through it just as most people. So I'm not special in any way. A lot of people go through with it with the 6 courses and finish on time. So I had no delays at all. You're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not realize.
That's okay.
Okay, so and you went ahead and got your master's degree as well.
Yes. So I got into doing my master's immediately after graduating with my undergrad on my bachelor's degree in engineering. So I didn't take like a gap year or took a year to work. I just went into my master's right away. Yeah.
And what pushed you? Why didn't you take a break after going 5 years, of learning? Why did you want to do the master's immediately?
I had a scholarship, so my master's was going to be funded fully paid for. That was the only reason why I did it. But I struggled to make the decision because I wanted to work. I wanted the experience of working and other reasons as well that made me struggle to decide whether I wanted to do the master's or just go and get a job. But I mean, it's a fully funded, fully paid for opportunity, and I just couldn't let go of it. So I just took it up. I took up the opportunity. Yeah.
So let's move a little bit back to Fatou Secka in university. Were you working while going to school?
Yeah, there was a period of time when I was working whilst going to school, and it was, working the part-time hours at the retail stores. But in my third and fourth year, especially where things got a little bit more complicated, I had like my final year project. I wasn't working then.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't doing my part-time job anymore, but I did work for some of my years whilst going
Okay.
to school.
Okay. So you mentioned that your sister was supporting you with your school fees.
Yeah.
Um, why did you feel it necessary to have a job when you're getting that support?
So it's expensive to go to school in Canada, first of all, or abroad.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't depend on her fully.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, I'm an individual who cannot ask for money or financial support from even my dad. So from people, it's just something that I cannot do. I wanted that independence and to also support, at least pay for some of the things that I can pay for. So it's just not the fees. There are other expenses that come into play as well. So I was working to simply like your grocery, like you have to get groceries every month or
Yes,
every week, or
of
like you
course.
have, right, you see things that you want to get, or you have to pay a bill.
Yeah.
So that kind of like propelled me to work, but also getting that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really relevant and important for us to kind of like work. I know this is not the culture in the Gambia, and I think things are changing now, which is good. But back then, you wouldn't see like a high school student, barely, if it happened, it barely happened, a high school student or an 11-year old
Mm-hmm.
working at a
Mm-hmm.
store, at a
Mm-hmm.
retail store, or any kind of job. We don't do those things, and it is really relevant in the sense that it helps a person grow a lot. It
Yeah.
develops a sense of responsibility in a person,
Mm-hmm.
and even for people who are thinking of traveling abroad to get an education, you need something on your resume.
Yes.
So they should facilitate those opportunities for the young people that we have back home.
Mm-hmm.
Expose them. I mean, like, getting the education is important, going to school and reading the books is important, but you need practical experience, or even learn a skill.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be going to school, and let's say you're a 12-year-old, be it you're a female or you're a male.
Mm-hmm.
You can, if you can't find a job within an office or a retail store, you have like carpentries, like carpenters that have their stores and they're building tables, they're doing woodwork. Go
Mm-hmm.
and learn that skill, because it sells and it's a
Mm-hmm.
skill and it's
Yes.
important and you can use it in the future. Go learn how to cook. Go to like a culinary school if you're a female and you're passionate about that. Learn how to sew. Like, there's so many things that you can do whilst going to school, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like being exposed to these things or developing these skills would really play it would play an important part as to how you grow as an individual, or
Mm-hmm.
even the opportunities that you can get once you
Mm-hmm.
leave, you go abroad. So
Mm-hmm.
getting the school, the knowledge, the degree, the paper, that's
Mm-hmm.
important, but
Mm-hmm.
you need a skill to come with it. And
Of
you
course.
don't have to wait until you leave the Gambia,
Mm-hmm.
or just thinking about leaving and not doing anything else. You have so many things that you can do to develop yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, uh, if you still remember, give me a day-to-day recap of what you would do as a university student going to school. You have homework, you have exams, and you still have to go to work. You know, the scheduling has to be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time management is really important when it comes to that. But I think I was terrible. I didn't do a great job at being a university student. And you learn from your experience, you grow from your experience, and you really want people to kind of like learn from other people's experiences as well. So, like
Mhm.
I said, for me, the most important thing for me at the time was getting my A's. I don't know what made me think that the A's would. It's good. Like, I'm not saying don't do well in school,
Yeah.
Don't call me wrong. You do well, you study, you do what you have to do. But
Uh-huh.
I invest that so much time in reading, in studying, in making sure that I got my A's or I got like really good grades, or like,
Mm-hmm.
when I, for example, failed a course, did it happen? Not a course, not fail a course, but like do a test and didn't get a good grade. It's like
Yes.
my world has just collapsed on me. I didn't really think about, so like I said, skill development, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the mindset that people have is just getting that diploma or that degree, and then that degree or that diploma is what would land you opportunities, or that will get you that job. That's
Mm-hmm.
not it. There's so much more. Like for me, if you're graduating away from school,
Mm-hmm.
I would want someone to come out of it not just with that diploma,
Mm-hmm.
come out of it with something else.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say maybe you have thought of about a business plan and you've been working about that. You've been working on that business plan, and by the time that you're graduating, you have a solid business plan that you can venture into, or that you've already ventured into, and it is going for you.
Mm-hmm.
Think about a skill that you can develop, or I would call it a skill. It is a skill. Think about something that you can develop whilst you're in school. For example, it could be as simple as building and working on your communication skills. Like you
Mm-hmm.
are going to work when you graduate. If you cannot communicate, it's not going to work out for you. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't just want to leave uni with a piece of paper like a degree. That's not going to take you anywhere. Whilst you're going to school and they're impacting, like you're taking that knowledge in, find
Mm-hmm.
something else that you can do that can develop you as an individual. It could
Of
be
course.
simple as volunteering,
Mm-hmm.
right? It could be not even, it could be. I feel like I hate the word I feel like. I believe every student should get a mentor when you're in uni.
Yes.
So a mentor would be someone, you can even be in the Gambia right now and reach out to someone that you look up to be your mentor. And this is someone that you can learn from. You can learn from their experience. They can guide you. It can
Mm-hmm.
be someone who's not maybe in the field that you want to go into. This
Mm-hmm.
person can be doing something else, but you just admire their qualities.
Mm-hmm.
You admire the way that they work, the steps that they have taken, their journey, and you just learn from them. There's no better way that you can grow than getting that mentor and learning from them, especially if it is a great mentor. Get into that mentorship program whilst you're in school.
Mm-hmm.
Find a program that can help you build your communication skills.
Mm-hmm.
Spend 1 hour a week to learn. Let's say an engineer, learn how to use CAD. They teach you, but then try to build on that skill. Maybe
Okay.
1 hour a week to learn how to be a fashion designer.
Okay.
So I feel like those things are really important.
Yes. Yes, they are. Do you think those things would have helped you when you were in Gambia?
Yes. Would have helped me when I moved to Canada if I took those up in the Gambia, you mean?
Yes.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Would have helped me a lot in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So if I invested the time to kind of like maybe find a mentor who would help me grow, or
Mm-hmm.
let's say not even that mentorship part. Let's say every time that I got that I like I got off school, I
Mm-hmm.
went to a person that does woodwork to just
Mm-hmm.
learn from them or watch them,
Mm-hmm.
and I developed this skill and I'm so great at it.
Mm-hmm.
When I move here and I'm going to school, it could be something that I could have done as a side hustle. It is a hobby, a side hustle. No one probably invests time in doing woodwork.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can be doing this woodwork, I can be selling it, it can be an art. I can
Mm-hmm.
even leave my engineering program, and by the time that I'm graduating, I already have a business set up for myself,
True. True. And
right?
that's what we
So
see happening. That's what
they're
we see.
valuable. I mean, like I said, education is important, but do you have a goal as to what do you want like 5 years from when you graduate? Or
Yes.
how do you want to, like when you graduate, what do you want to leave with? Do you just want to leave with that diploma? Are you going to be holding that diploma around? Is that what would get you the things? It's more than that. It's important, but I feel like it is more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would really encourage young people to just learn a skill.
Mm-hmm.
We should not even like going to a mechanic place and having them teach you how to be a
Yes.
mechanic, how to fix a
Yes.
car. Those
Yes.
things are valuable. Like those
Yes.
are valuable skills that I
Very
remember watching
useful.
it. I
Especially,
remember watching an interview of Taf, the owner of Taf. I know
yes.
his name, Mr. Jai. I'll call him
Mr.
Mr. Jai. And he was explaining how, he was learning how to do, I think it was woodwork, like construction, because he was
Yes.
very much passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
He said he didn't go to uni. He just
Mm-hmm.
finished high school, but he's so successful now,
Mm-hmm.
mashallah. And it
Mm-hmm.
is all because he took the time to learn a skill,
Yes.
right? Someone can go to school and have that fancy degree and it gets them nothing. It's all about your
True.
hard work,
True.
like, the time you invest in learning something and how practical that skill that can be and how transferable that skill can be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
I think you can see it now in the Gambian community. Uh, People that have graduated with their degrees, they're coming and actually having, using their hobbies as a career now. There are a lot of, food vendors now in Gambia. It's
Yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah.
our generation is doing so well when it
Yeah.
comes to creating their own and making a business out of it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what it's supposed to be, especially if you're passionate about it. Go ahead and do it. Even if you have a 9 to 5 cannot sustain you. You
Hmm.
need like other streams of income. You need a
Hmm.
side hustle. You
Hmm.
have to rubber it.
Yes, true.
So having that side hustle, but like you said, for example, the food industry in Gambia, look at
Hmm.
the Sweet Box, for example.
Yes,
That's a full-time career and she's amazing and doing so well at it, like,
of
and so
course.
many other people, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
For example, Lilio Bin Buba's creations, like,
Yes,
these people, Zamzam Couture, it's just the
right.
skill that they're doing and they love it
Yes.
and they're doing so well at it.
Hmm.
So let's say, for example, you come from a low income family that cannot
Hmm.
afford you to go abroad. Just
Hmm.
because you're in the Gambia doesn't mean you cannot be successful. You can
Hmm.
be. You have so many people in the Gambia today that you can look up to. I have so many people that are currently in the Gambia today that I look
Hmm.
up to so much, and it's because they just have that one skill that they're
Hmm.
doing and they're excelling, like they're doing so well at it.
Hmm.
So this whole idea of "No, get him out, boy." We've all been there, but
Yes,
it's
we
not
have.
like, like, if the opportunity doesn't present itself, create
Hmm.
opportunities for yourself. You can
Yes.
create opportunities for yourself. You just have to have a vision,
Hmm.
believe in it, and reach out to the right people and work hard for it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
think that's an important aspect to mention for this show and for our viewers. Kids that want to go to out, for them to have somebody actually tell them you don't need to go to out to achieve, and be a good person, the best version of yourself.
Hmm.
Try, at least try, and make it at where you are right now,
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
how it turns out. See how
Yeah,
it turns out.
it's hard to hear,
Yes,
especially if right now there's a teenager with that mindset of
yes, of
manipulative out,
course.
right?
Mhm.
If you hear me or you telling these things to them, the response that you would get is like, "Mom, move them out,
Okay.
move them out, Minyo ni wali, ah?" So it's more like they don't kind of believe it, but
Hmm.
it's hard, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of what I've noticed is there's a lot of people, like young people, who spend a lot of time abroad going to school and studying, that
Hmm.
get to a point that they fall into depression without
Yes.
even realizing that they have fallen into depression, because we
Yes.
don't like where we now it's changing, but back then
Hmm.
we didn't know like the term depression. We don't know what it is. It's like, I
Hmm.
mean, she's going through a difficult phase, but
Hmm.
so gomeya, like you don't go through
Yeah.
depression. That's another discussion of its own.
Hmm.
But you do go through hardships that kind of push you to the bottom down,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
I've realized that I've went through that phase. I went When I was
Yeah.
going through that phase, I did not know I was going through that phase
Hmm.
until I grew out of that phase. And
Hmm.
then I
Hmm.
realized I went through that phase.
Well, I
So
think.
negative.
Yeah. Well, I think that's actually something, a conversation we should get into, especially when you're in somebody else's country and you're not seeing your family. You don't, and you might not have never, experienced depression before. Not knowing what it feels like, you're just sad. You don't want to do anything else. it's a struggle.
Yeah, you're sad. You kind of like lose the people that are around you.
Mhm.
You don't even know why those things are happening. You don't like for me, like I really didn't know. I was getting up to do what I had to do. So
Mhm.
for me, my school was important because failing was not an option.
Option.
No, even if I had to crawl to like
Yes.
get to the finish line, I will do it. So I got up. I would go to work. I'll do things that I would have to do.
Mhm.
But deep down, things were not really okay. But I didn't
Mhm.
know why. But now when I think about it, it's like I did go through a phase of like hardship,
Mhm.
and it probably would have been different if I had like I was back home with my family, or
Yes.
having that kind of distraction. But even
Mhm.
if you're abroad and you're going through these things, there are opportunities for you. Like make mental health a priority.
Mhm.
Find
Mhm.
things that you can do that can support your mental health. Go
Mhm.
see a counselor or a psychologist or whatever. Have
Mhm.
those conversations. Let that be a priority and make sure that you're okay. If you're not okay, nothing else would be okay.
Mhm.
The career that you're trying to build will not be okay. But
Mhm.
back to the whole point of you being in out will not be a reason for you to successful. So
Mhm.
we believe, like as believers, we believe that what you're meant to have, so qadar, like what you're meant to have, you're supposed to have it regardless of where you are. Before you go, like before you die, before you're out of this world, the
Mhm.
portion that is a portion to you, you will get
Mhm.
it wherever you are.
Mhm.
So even if I was in Gambia, what I'm meant to have is what I would have. So
Mhm.
just get up and do the work and find the opportunities and just pray about it. But just hard work, like working hard would lead you to so many opportunities. So just do the
Of
hard
course.
work. Being
Mhm.
in Canada or being in the US is not, or being in abroad anywhere does
Mhm.
not mean successful altogether.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think that's a good note to end with today. Being outside your country does not automatically will make you successful. It just depends on your hard work, and we've seen that with the Gambians and other Africans and people all over the world that are immigrants that tell you their story. And if you do listen, you do realize that they had to work maybe even twice as hard because they're not in their country to achieve the goals,
Exactly.
yes, that
Yeah.
they have today, that they have
Yeah.
achieved today. Thank you so much for joining me today, Fatou Secka Gabe. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Ajisawa.
So until next time, uh, next week we'll bring you another interviewee and we'll listen to their journey. And I would also like to dedicate this show to my grandma, who we lost this week. And during this Ramadan, I do plead with you to pray for her. Her name is Ajifatunjai. She's also my namesake, a beautiful, beautiful soul. And yes, thank you for joining us today, and see you next week.
When leaving your comfort zone for better opportunities, you're sure to encounter unforgettable souvenirs. Whether it was the difficulties you faced or the joys you embraced, your story can guide someone else ready for the race.